I'm feeling upside down. I saw your car. I know you're back in town. I called your friend. She said you're not around. She said that I should go and fuck myself. Go and fuck myself. My name's Harley Neville. Welcome along to the Guy and Harley podcast.
And I'm Guy Pigden. And who was that told you to go fuck yourself?
That was Nothing Nowhere. That was the name of, with his song Upside Down. Nothing Nowhere by Upside Down. So this kid, Nothing Nowhere. He's going places. I told you guys about another guy, Jaden, whose name is spelt with a JX. The X replaces the A. I've told you guys about him, Jackson. Nothing Nowhere. This kid, Nothing Nowhere. He's going places too. I tell you what. So Nothing Nowhere. Keep an eye out for him. He always kind of obscures his face, but not like in a Slipknot way, just in a like you never really see his face kind of way, and it really works. You know, it's a genius idea. If you're a talented entertainer, but you're not very good looking, add an air of mystery by just never really showing your face. That's how they do it. It's a brilliant idea.
Well, it really has been done before, though,
well, we're not suggesting it. I'm just saying it's a good strategy. I'm not saying it's like an original strategy. I'm saying it's a good strategy for ugly entertainers. So all of you ugly entertainers who listen to the Guy and Harley podcast, hide your face, obscure it sometimes, for artistic reasons.
Yeah. Speaking of ugly entertainers, if you're watching on, we've entered backwards world here because I've got a cool dude cap on, a backwards cap on, and Harley doesn't have a hat on. So we've swapped roles.
I know, right? That is kind of weird now that you think about it, now that you pointed out.
It's a Twilight Zone, man.
It's funny, and that wasn't planned either. I was just like, tonight I'm rocking the bald, lonely loser look. I'm not going to hatfish. I'm going to hatfish the listeners. I'm not going to hatfish the listeners. Unlike you tonight,
Guy. Going to wear it loud and proud.
Just hatfishing the listeners over there.
First subject on the agenda, the lockdown files. We went into Auckland, where we both live, went into another 3-day lockdown, an impromptu 3-day lockdown. Now, this was quite a surprise to me. I was minding my own business. I had actually just traveled to Taupo to see my girlfriend, who's researching down there, her PhD. So drove down, 3-hour drive down there to say hello. And then on Facebook, it was like, 2 or 3 community cases, just someone updated. And I was like, whoa, that's a little bit of worry, but I'm sure there'll be no issues. Whatevs, We had one of those, a few weeks back as well. No big deal. And then it was like, government announces lockdown till midnight Wednesday. And I was like, what? I'm trapped. What I was worried about is...
Right? I'm pretty sure you can still come in. You just can't leave.
You could... Right? So it was actually quite hard for me to find out. Because essentially, and this is the problem with COVID, really, and sort of sometimes the government's communication, is there's lots of grey areas. There's lots of things where it's not quite clear. Okay, so what's the rule here? Can I come back in? Can anyone come back in? Pass through? Like, who can go? Who can stay? Who needs to
just think of
get
it like
think of
it like you're a virus. If you can pass from person to person, then those people should not be able to leave or enter. So therefore, nobody should be able to leave or enter, or it's not a quarantine. I guess you can enter. If you enter, it's just like, okay, you just can't leave again. Yeah, but you can't leave.
No. Yes. So it's kind of like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory in that respect, Auckland.
I'm the fat, greedy bitchy girl? The
Um,
you. I'm
Veruca
Veruca
Salt.
That's me. To be fair, no, Veruca Salt wasn't fat though. And she was actually probably the most sensible character in the whole movie.
I'm Mike TV.
Yeah, is that the fat guy?
Yeah, I just love watching shit on. I can't stop. What my eyes are going square, and that's me, Mike
Yeah.
TV.
I'd probably be that guy that got shrunk.
Yeah, that was Mike TV. I think.
All right, okay. No, I'd be Veruca Salt. Veruca Salt was fine.
She turned into a blueberry. Someone did make a observation about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it was that in the movie, it starts off with Charlie lives with his family and his grandparents, and his grandparents haven't left their bed in like years. When Charlie finds out he gets the golden ticket, his granddad leaps out of bed and he's like, "Oh, my boy, I'm coming with you. Great."
And everyone's like, "That's cool." Everyone's like, "That's cool." Totally makes sense.
And I would just totally thought, yeah, he's excited. He's got motivation to get out of bed.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's like if you'd been stuck in bed for years, your legs would have completely atrophied.
Deteriorated, yeah.
And you would not be able to walk, let alone leap out of bed with gusto. You know, you would immediately fall to the ground and knock yourself out. And, you know, this is a big continuity issue. Well, a big logic gap, I guess, that they should have really addressed that. The grandparents people can't live in a bed for 20 years.
Well, I think this is a sign, though, that you're getting old, you know, because people also can't be turned into teacups, you know, and live in enchanted mansions with hideous beasts. But it's this is a fiction.
That's fantastical.
Exactly. This is fantastical
reality
too.
Based.
It's fantastical too.
It's
just real life actors. The only difference is it's real life actors.
For 20 years. It's fantastical. It's a fantasy. You can be in bed for 20 years and leap out of it.
Yeah. Well, no, you're right. I mean, it is very suspicious that, you know, it almost does seem like he was just like a, you know, like a lowly
he was
layabout
Yeah.
beneficiary.
Yeah, basically.
Beneficiary. Yeah, a layabout beneficiary. You know, just
acting like he couldn't get out and help the fucking family get a job.
In reality, he was quite
put food on the
sprightly
table
after all.
And he was feeling great. And basically, you know, when everyone went to bed, he got up and walked
did some
around
stretches
and
and so on.
had a cup of tea. Yeah, did some stretches and that. Was feeling great. But he wanted to keep that under wraps because, you know, then he would have been asked to work and help
this
provide.
This is a slight detour, but you know what that reminds me of is a forgotten storyline or an unfinished storyline in Game of Thrones where the Meister in King's Landing, they had the Meister whose name I can't remember, but he was the main like Meister in King's Landing hanging out with Cersei and all those people.
The blind one.
I don't think he was blind, no. So there was a scene where he, you know, everyone leaves him alone, and then he does like a whole bunch of like squats all of a sudden, and alone in his bedroom.
And he took off his chains and
did a whole bunch of squats.
No longer shuffling
exactly,
about.
And it really made you think like, oh, this guy's up to something. He's like actually super fit, but he's pretending that he's like a, you know, this like you know frail old man, but actually he's not what he seems to be. But then they never really pursued that storyline, and he got murdered by children. So,
yeah, interesting. So we've discovered some plot holes in some of our favorite.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, look, but we can acknowledge it at least. You know, we can acknowledge it.
So anyway, we were on lockdown, and it was all due to some randoms, total randoms, and this is the scary part of this whole thing. Is that essentially these people materialized with COVID in the community out of nowhere? That's the problem, and they still
because we've got to have we've got a border in New Zealand where we say people can't come in, people can't go out except for workers and specific people to go to specific places. So when
Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, also
something go in, something come out, and when the nobody goes in, nobody comes out. What's that from? But
yeah, that's it. Nobody ever goes in.
Yeah. So we've got this border, right? So every time there's a scare in New Zealand about, COVID, we instantly need to track it back to the border. We need to say, okay, well, there's no COVID in New Zealand theoretically. So if there's no COVID in New Zealand, this must have gotten here via the border. So what is the connection to these people back to the border? And so far, with every outbreak, there's been like some sort of connection back to the border. Okay, all right, this person worked here or whatever, right? But that has not happened with this latest one yet. We just have these random people who don't really have much connection to the border who suddenly have COVID, and it's the more virulent UK variety of COVID. And suddenly they've got it.
The super spreading one.
Just in the middle of the community with no real clear connection to the border. So that's the issue, and that's why we had to instantly go into like level 3 lockdown, and we all kind of hung out at home. Now we're in level 2 lockdown, so I don't really know exactly what. I mean, level 2 we can still go to cafes, but we're meant to be seated while we eat, and we're meant to get one server to come, one person to come and serve us, and there are certain restrictions, but. To be honest, I mean, today, it didn't really seem to me like people were following the restrictions.
Restrictions were not being followed where I was either. I was checking in everywhere.
I had breakfast at a cafe, and I got served by at least 3 different people, but possibly 4 people, depending on if there was one pretty girl or 2 pretty girls.
Yeah, well, so it's just weird because it's like, where's this shit coming from? Did someone breathe near someone? Did someone pick up
a porous borders, mate? Because at the end of the day, a ship arrives in New Zealand, and the stuff on board the ship needs to physically come off it. And yeah, there's cranes and stuff, but there's also people, and they're moving things and they're touching things, and there's certain there's contamination here. And then there's people flying into the country all on the same plane, and they're all staying at the same hotel. There's so many ways for this invisible ghost virus to just sneak on by. We're trying to hold out against something that's invisible. And we do these regular COVID updates for the internet archaeologists, right, Guy? I know you love the internet archaeologists.
Well, I love them.
The future internet archaeologists.
And this is,
and they're going to say to us, well, the future internet archaeologists who will listen to the Guy and Harley podcast, shout out to them, 1,000 years from now, are going to be like,
shout out to the 1,000 year in the future archaeologists.
They're going to be like, these poor people, in New Zealand, they thought that they had the virus under control, but they were fighting an invisible, ubiquitous, unavoidable, virus, which all humans
like the Terminator.
got. Exactly. And so yes. So, it's a tough battle. So that's how it keeps coming in. It keeps coming in because it's like basically we're fighting a horrible losing battle. I do hope we can keep it out, and I do think it'll work. But the elimination strategy. But I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't.
Well, the other concern too was we had this lockdown. Obviously, a lot of people stopped working, and for me, I'm about to start teaching the youth, and you'll never lose the youth faster than when you organise a Teams meeting with them as their first lesson.
Yeah.
You will never see a more empty Teams group than the one you organise for your students. If it's the first thing they've got to do. Well, I've got to learn from home now. Fuck that, I'm out. So unfortunately, that was the case. But thankfully, they, even despite still not having a clear clue where the fuck it came from, just having a few ideas and theories, they're like, cool, 3 days. Yeah, I think we're all safe. No worries, guys. We're back open. We're just down a level. So long may level 2 continue. But it was it is a bit concerning because I feel like the next time we're on this podcast, it could be that we've gone up a level.
My
again.
prediction was 2 weeks that we'd be in this.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Something like that.
Yeah, like 2 weeks, and that was being just not optimistic, but not pessimistic, just kind of like realistic.
Yeah.
Like maybe we'll be in this situation for 2 weeks. And the day that they announced that we were going down to level 2, they also announced that there was 2 more people that had it.
Yeah.
In the same, they were connected to that same group, but nevertheless, there was
the high
2
school,
more people that had it. So I was like, oh, okay, all right. Well, cool. How does that work? But I am glad because I want to get back to work because I lost 5 days work this week. And that's not really that cool for me because I was just sort of getting back into like, my pre-COVID levels of earnings and so on, and then suddenly it's now being ripped out from under me again. As it happens, I've got one decent pay this week, so I'm kind of okay. But nevertheless, it is a bit of a concern because things were going well. I had 5 days work lined up in front of me, and I guess this is the issue with being a freelancer. And then something like this happens, and they go, cool, well, we're not operating under level 3, so all of the work that you did have is no longer yours, and obviously we're not going to pay you because you're not doing the work because we're not doing the job, which makes complete sense.
Yeah. So that's where we're at. We're in, we're out. Thankfully, I did sneak back over the Auckland border. I was stopped by
That's
police.
Interesting to know. So you were driving into Auckland and they stopped you and were like, they're like, where are you going, boy?
Yeah, basically that was exactly what they said.
What'd you say?
And I said, look, I'm going home. I live in Auckland. I was just traveling to see my girlfriend. They asked me a little bit about that, and they're like, okay. And
hey,
then
Ricky,
they're like,
he got a real pretty mouth, don't he?
well, it was more like, I was like, you don't need to see my identification. And they were like, oh, we don't need to see his identification.
They were like, yes, we need to see your fucking identification.
This is this is not the director you're looking for. What is business? Move along. So that's kind of basically what happened. So I'm back in.
So you managed to sneak yourself back into the COVID hotspot of New Zealand. Congratulations.
That's
well
right.
done, guy.
Yeah. Well, the problem is like, life goes on. Yeah. I got to teach some shit. I've got to get shit ready for teaching. So, it was just one of those things.
I'm glad that I'm not in my old place anymore, my old flat. I was so grateful for that. I was like, man, all my work has just disappeared. That's a shame. And I was like, well, like that kind of sucks. But on the upside, all I've got to do is open this door and step outside and I can see trees and I can feel the wind blowing gently through my back here. And I thought to myself, I'm so glad that I don't live in that old place that I lived in for the last year and a half. And I actually went back to that place because I had a very small gathering. I had a few friends around and all of them occasional Sifty 150 listeners, Tanya, Isaac, and Robbie, and they came around and we had a beer and a barbecue and so on. And I just thought to myself, gosh, I could not do this at the other place. I'm so much happier here, and I'm so glad now that there's a lockdown. And they came around the night of the lockdown. Just for the record, they were not here during the lockdown. But I was just thinking, man, this is so much better than that oppressive, depressing basement that I lived in for the last year and a half. And so even though I was upset about losing all my work, I was like, I can handle this now because I'm in this place, not that place.
Yeah. Well, good to get out of there, get out of the hovel, get out of the hobbit hole.
The cave, Plato's cave, Neville's cave.
So, cool. We should also say, I should also like to mention that, just after lockdown, the my PC. Talked about many times on the show.
Yeah.
The PC's reign of terror is over.
Really?
The PC is
Yeah.
gone. And it
And
was
good
much
riddance.
like in Lord of the Rings. Much like in Lord of the Rings when Frodo eventually chucks the thing, and spoiler alert, guys, he chucks it into Mount Doom, or well, Sam helps him really, along with Gollum.
Wouldn't any
assist.
volcano have done? But sure, all right. You got to go to the one right. You got to
No,
go
it's
right
the special,
to
'cause
the
it was
one right next to
forged
Sauron.
in Mount
Yeah.
Doom. It was forged.
Sure,
in
but if
Mount
you threw
Doom.
it into a normal
So you can only burn it
you
in
could only
Mount
burn
Doom.
it there. But if you just threw it into a normal volcano and it sunk into the lava, nobody's going to be able to.
Who's
going
gonna
to be
get
able to get it out of there for millions
No,
of
the
years?
ring
Once
would
the lava
find
cools,
its way back, mate.
once the lava cools, you would then
Find
have
its way back.
to mine, several 100 meters or whatever, and just happen to stumble upon it. And with the technology they have in Middle Earth, it just doesn't seem reasonable to me. He should have just taken it to the nearest volcano. Taking it to Mount Doom was silly.
Well,
but he is an uneducated hobbit, so.
No, I disagree, because it can only be destroyed
Okay,
where it was
what would happen if you
forged.
buried it in hundreds of tons of molten lava? Who's it going to hurt?
Sauron just uses magic to levitate it out.
But does he have to go there, or can he just do that from afar? Is he omnipotent? Can he just levitate rings out anywhere he wants? Like, what's the deal?
They were very unclear.
They were quite
about
unclear. Obviously, he's a finite.
what his
He is a
powers
finite
were.
mortal. He can be beaten, and he does get beaten. So I think if you just threw it into the nearest volcano, probably that'd suffice, Frodo.
Well, I felt like it needed to be definitive. I mean, it got essentially the same
Sounds like
thing,
plot
like
armor.
to a lesser degree. It got chucked in the
Yeah, but in a river, it's
got
not
lost
the same.
It got lost at the bottom of a thing.
Yeah,
and
but
then,
a river is not the same as molten lava, Like, if I recall correctly, what was his original name? Not Gollum.
Smeagol
and Deagle. Smeagol and his brother / friend Deagle just simply jumped into a river and found it. They just found it. Now, you can't just jump into some lava and find it. You can't. If
the ring wants to be found,
if the
mate.
but if the river folk like Smeagol and Deagle decided to dive into a lava, filled volcano, they would die before reaching the ring and getting it out, right? Now, there's no... maybe you could get, even the ogres couldn't do it.
The ring would call to someone, like a powerful elf, and the elf would levitate that shit out.
Okay, so a powerful elf might levitate it out. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe.
For sure.
Maybe.
The ring must be found until it's
Yeah,
destroyed.
and it can only be destroyed where it was made. Yeah.
So anyway, once that PC was gone, that burden, that ring, I just felt this huge moment of relief. And I don't normally feel moments of relief when I lose $2,000 on a fucking computer. But I felt a huge amount of relief when I did that, when I made that move and that PC was banished from my household. And I tried, I turned it into the Hackintosh, and I had it pretending it was a Mac.
Yeah.
And I thought I was sorted.
next
I
best
thought I was
thing,
away
yeah.
laughing. But then when I had some significant editing and rendering to do for a project that I'd filmed over the weekend, and when I started trying to copy files and do stuff, it just started shitting itself and bricking and apparently it was just unstable. Stability, security.
All you need to say, mate, is that it was a PC. It wasn't a Mac.
It was a PC at the end of the day.
It was a PC.
No matter what I tried, no matter what I did, it was still a PC at the end of the day.
Welcome back, Guy, to the Mac Attack Fold. We knew that you were going to come back. We all knew you were going to come back. We don't hold this against you.
Torturous and arduous
we
journey.
all experiment.
Since September last year.
We all experiment in our youth, and sometimes we make
true.
mistakes, and we become
dabble.
PC-nesses.
We try things. We try things that maybe we're not proud of.
It's like that old saying.
When we look back.
like that old saying. You can't tell if you don't like sucking dick until you suck a dick.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
That age-old saying.
Age-old saying. Now, you couldn't have known that you didn't like
So-
PCs until you had a proper PC-ness experience.
Until I had one in my mouth,
Uh,
going
yeah.
for gold. And I realized I do not want to be here. I do not want this. I was wrong to try this, and I do not want it. And I want it to stop, but I can't stop now. It's too late.
I've got to at least wait until they finish.
I've got to wait. So yeah, it was.
Rude.
It was, yeah, so very glad. And at the moment, I'm just rocking the old M1 Mac laptop, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, what's the fucking story? Why can't you just buy the latest and greatest Mac?
Well, that's possibly what will happen.
Like, if all the things you got to invest in, right? There's like different things that are worth investing in. You go, okay, well, obviously, a computer is like the best computer is an obvious investment that any one of us should make if we work in a media type sort of, place.
Well, there's two issues here. There's one that what I have currently may be able to do the job satisfactorily. The other thing is that that computer is significantly more expensive, and the third thing is that it's the same thing that I told you, which is this new Mac ARM-based silicon chip revolution has just arrived, and therefore, if you were to buy something now, you will probably deeply regret it in about a year when these new ones come in and smoke the world.
Well, I'm holding off on upgrading Macs.
Exactly.
Because you
I
told me
you
to.
So I'm trying to take my own advice.
You know what else
here.
I'm doing? I'm investing in Apple via Sharesies and Stake right now, because when it comes out, Apple will go up in value, presumably, and Apple's already trending
really
upwards.
Will.
So.
But didn't they just that might not work out as well? So they've got this ARM-based silicon chip.
Well, they're wasting a lot of money trying to compete with Tesla for electric cars, and that's going to be a big issue.
That's what I'm a bit concerned about.
That is.
If you've ever seen those fucking Apple iPhone, not iPhone, earphones, you start worrying. Start worrying about these fucking electric cars.
Are you talking about the earplugs, the wireless earplugs?
I'm talking more about the new ones, the $700 wireless earphones that are approximately $500 overpriced because of Apple tax.
Well, I mean, even if they were $200, that does seem quite unreasonable for a pair of headphones to work on your phone. Like, for you to be able to listen to your phone without holding it up to your ear should not cost you $200 or $700. It should really just come with your fucking phone. And so I think that is the kind of the problem, is like Tesla is so far ahead of them in terms of technology and research and like automated hours that they already have like kind of recorded. It just doesn't really make sense that another competitor could come along, let alone a competitor with a business model like that. I don't know.
It doesn't bode well.
Like Tesla's trying to make their shit cheaper, deliberately, on purpose, in order to reach critical mass so that we all have a Tesla. So they're deliberately making their cars cheaper, whereas Apple is doing the other thing. They're making them more and more exclusive in a world where less and less people have more and more money. So small percentages of people have large amounts of money, and Apple's kind of trying to get those people, whereas Tesla's bringing their prices down to try and reach more people. So, I don't know, it seems to me that that's a better strategy. But if anybody would like to invest in Tesla, by the way, just hit me up. Go. It's actually will be in the link in the description of this video. You can sign up for Sharesies or Stake and buy Tesla. It's been really good for me. And if you do that, you'll get free money, and so will I, using that link.
So... Speaking, well, to change tacks here a little bit, my close personal friend, Alex Savage, did make his triumphant return to the ring recently, as we mentioned.
Triumphantly from your hip operation?
That's correct. And then
So Alex Savage was
triumphantly,
triumphantly
yeah,
returning from
mm,
your hip operation.
a similar
Oh,
operation,
he had a similar operation.
that he had,
Oh, right. I get it. Because you
similar
guys have
operation.
that quantum entanglement thing going on where things that happen to you
Yeah,
also happen to Alex Savage. So, for example, if
quite
something
often.
happens to your hip and you need a hip operation, he will need one as well, which is quite unfortunate.
It's like that weird twins
Yeah.
thing, when the other one
Quantum
feels
entanglement.
others'
Yeah.
pain.
It's a real shame for you, Guy Pigden, because Alex Savage is a wrestler and does all sorts of
Yeah,
crazy things with his body. So the quantum entanglement
yeah.
means that, it affects your body too.
It's a problem. And in fact, he did, in his triumphant return, triumphantly pull his groin,
He's got a new injury.
which meant that, of course, because of the quantum entanglement, I myself pulled my groin. And
that's not
I just got
unusual for you to be pulling your groin. But in
that's
this
the
case,
thing.
you didn't even get to do it yourself.
Well, what I discovered is that he pulled his groin so hard he tore it.
He's got it.
And
So he's got a torn.
he's got
a torn labrum.
He's got a torn groin because he's pulling it too hard.
And a torn groin.
Torn groin because he's pulling it too hard. And so that was the assessment, which explains the significant amount of pain I've been in for the last couple of weeks. But I do have, but it's been assessed. It's on the mend, and hopefully it will be better soon. And I have this close personal friend, Alex Savage, and we have a good relationship. But I actually have another close personal friend in the wrestling business. And he's actually, you might be interested to know, Harley, he's what's known as a luchador. He's from Mexico, I believe, originally. And his name is Pior. I'm not sure if you speak a bit of Spanish, so maybe you'll be familiar with that as you type it into your Google machine quickly to.
I don't know, like it could be the hate. Yeah.
Very close. But
what is it?
This.
Yeah.
I understand it's.
As he frantically types it into his Google machine.
Can be loosely translated to
the worst. Yeah. Okay, I was, look, that's not bad. That's not bad. The hated or something like that.
Pressed.
Yeah.
And Pior, my close personal friend Pior, be doing, I understand, at PWE this weekend.
I see.
Wrestling in Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah, Pior. So
does this guy look a lot like you?
Scene. He's from Mexico. He wears a mask, so it's hard to know his identity.
Does he like Star Wars?
No.
But does he have any Star Wars tattoos?
Well, that's the thing. It's hard to know if he has any tattoos because his outfit, his luchador outfit, is sort of, I guess, referencing dead.
Dia de los Muertos.
Thank you. And so you. I've been given that Lopior.
Oh, you heard it here first, Mark Cookson. Cookie, you heard it here first. Lopior is fighting this weekend.
Yep.
The hated, the worst. Lo Pior. That is interesting intel for people who are interested in the the wrestling scene in New Zealand. So that is, you heard it here first, people. Lo
That's
Pior.
true. Well, and also very few are from Mexico like he is. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see him sort of bring that.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to learn some Spanish from him. I'd love to hear him speak Spanish at some point. We'll have to hear the types of things and how his accent is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny that you
very
figure
interesting.
I speak Spanish. I'm fluent, mate. I'm fucking fluent.
I thought you'd know the.
Yeah. So last week, I mentioned skateboards, and I mentioned that the skateboards have evolved, and they've passed me by. In my youth, it was completely normal for me to ride a 7.5-inch skateboard, and that's how wide the trucks were. That's how wide the skateboard was. I went into Cheapskates, New Zealand's premier skate shop, and the one that I was always, we all went out there and went there and hung out there a little bit and bought skateboards from Cheapskates. Everybody knew Cheapskates. If you worked at Cheapskates, in the late 90s, you were like one of the coolest dudes, right? Which none of us were.
No, and also, when you're there, it's like we went there all the time and looked at shit
we couldn't afford,
and never bought anything because we had no fucking money. And then and would sometimes go, oh, how much is that? How much is that? And they go, it's this much. And go, and do absolutely fucking nothing because we couldn't afford whatever they said.
It was worse for
6 months or a year. You
get something.
Might actually buy some bearings or something from them.
Well, I went to Cheapskates last week and they could not sell me a 7.5-inch skateboard, which in the old days, back in our day, was the size of a skateboard. If you walked into a place and said, give me one skateboard, please, they would give you a 7.5-inch board because that is the appropriate size for a skateboard to be. I go into Cheapskates. Now, I don't know if it's just because that particular store is like going out of business and so they've got fuck all stock and they've only got 8 inches left. But the guy behind the counter says to me that that they're not really doing that anymore, that a lot of the manufacturers of skateboards aren't even making 7.5s anymore, and that it's hard to import them, and that pretty much everybody's riding an 8 now. And a little while ago, I did watch a skate video, and the guy in the skate video mentioned what he was riding, and he said it was 8-inch. And I was like, that's weird to me, because an 8-inch board for me, 8 inches wide, is for ramp skating. It's like for carving around. It's a big fat fucking whale of a skateboard that you carve around on, unless you're a big giant. If you're a big giant, then maybe you just need an 8-inch skateboard, and that's fine. But it's for us normal sized people, we just have a 7.5. Now I walked into Cheapskates, they could not sell me a 7.5-inch skateboard. They literally did not have one. So I was like, all right, cool. So today I was like, all right, well, I'm going back in. I've got to get a new skateboard. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to try it out, right? So I went in and I bought a new skateboard, 8 inches, because it has to be. I bought new bearings, new wheels. They've got new technology in wheels, by the way. Now, wheels, when we bought them, had a sort of rounded edge, and that was normal. They were sort of this rounded, they had a sort of rounded edge, right? Whereas now they've got these like lock-in type wheels, which are actually really square, really kind of like, so they're very flat and square, and the idea is that you lock into a rail a lot better with these wheels that are kind of flat on the sides instead of slightly rounded. And this is all new technology, which has only popped up in the last 10 years. Like this shit, we didn't have that shit. And so I bought those wheels. I bought this fucking 8-inch deck, and I bought some new bearings. And I went for my first skate today, and at the pub. I was at the pub, and the guy said to do a kickflip, and I tried my first kickflip on this board, and I failed, and I tried again. I failed again. I tried several times, and I fell over and I grazed my knee, and I mean, like,
It was at that moment.
But I landed it. But I no,
Harley
because I
realised.
can kickflip on a 7.5. I don't give me shit. I can kickflip on a 7.5. I kickflipped just the other day.